The thing I hear so often is, I'm tired. Are you tired of people telling you what you want to hear and not what you need to hear? Are you ready to actually do something about it? If so, you're in the right place, because this is a no fluff, no nonsense, real and raw place where we have conversations that'll test your true grit, maybe even disrupt your life where it needs to, and drill in what really matters most. This podcast is my way of breaking down the BS filters of what we say, what we do, and how we interact with others. I'm Loren Lahav, and for the past 30 plus years, I've been blessed to speak to thousands of people around the world. I've shared the stage with the world's top thought leaders, including Barbara Walters, Tony Robbins, Barbara Corcoran, and Gary Vaynerchuk. I'm a personal development, lifestyle, and business coach, an entrepreneur with business in over 25 countries. I'm a wife and proud mama to 3 and bonus mom to 1. Trust me when I tell you, it took me many years of buying into my old story of I'm not enough and many painful lessons to finally let go of that ridiculous story. I understand firsthand what it takes to rise above the noise of self-judgment and decide to say yes to my life. And I'm here to help you do the same. They don't call it the School of Hard Knocks for nothing. It's time to get real in a world of political correctness and living our lives on social media. What is real? With your permission, I'm going to share what worked for me, yet more importantly, what didn't work for me. How I faced my fears, came out the other side to the most fulfilling life that is truly badass and beautiful. Issues, I've had them all. And I'm going to take the time to be as real as possible and help you get solutions. I've had financial issues, marriage issues, parenting issues, emotional issues that seem to pop up when I least expected them. I'm able to see now that those were all opportunities. With this podcast, we're going to tune up our lives. I'm going to be your cup of espresso to help get you through with whatever is holding you back, and give you the confidence to know someone is here to help and guide you. But you have to do the work. So strap in, hang on tight, and let's get real. Welcome, everybody, to the podcast. So, Tony, I went to my Facebook page and I said, what is a Tony Robbins quote that has transformed your life? And of course, I had over 400 people give me something different. But the one that really transformed my life was when you said the quality of your life is directly related to how much uncertainty you can comfortably handle. And I found my journal from when we were in Israel for the Platinum event there. And that was the day on my birthday where you gave me the gift. And that was the day I went from being, I would say, a 45-year-old little girl to a woman. And I just, as you always say, if you want new results, you have to take new actions. And the first action I really want to encourage everybody to be a part of is in just a couple of days, Tony has a New World, New You challenge that's happening. I think there's already 400,000 people that are going to be challenge. So I am beyond honored to introduce you to truly one of the most amazing people who's influenced my life. I have so much love, admiration, and respect for you. And I can't believe that it's been 31 years since we've been working.
I was going to say, what year was it we met, Lo? It's 31 years. That's amazing.
I came over for the very first basket brigade that I actually have a picture of when we went to downtown San Diego. And I think that foundation then, so that picture was I think you were actually 6 and I was 2.
I was going to say, that's right, 30 years ago.
If you haven't heard of who Tony is, he is the nation's #1 life and business strategist. He's a #1 New York Times bestseller. He's the chairman of a holding company that I think is comprised of more than 70 privately held companies with $6 billion in sales annually. I think when I was listening to the Ray Dalio event just a couple of years ago, I think it was 36. And so now just a couple years later, is the leader called upon by leaders. I've had the honor of being there with some of those times. I remember when you're going to meet Nelson Mandela. He's worked with presidents. He's worked with athletes, sports teams. Pitbull, Usher, the list goes on and on and on and on. But what I love most about Tony is his huge heart. And he has the Tony Robbins Foundation. He works with Feeding America, where I think 600 million people, and you're on track for 1 billion people.
Yeah, 1 billion meals. Yeah.
1 billion meals. He's the hardest working guy you'll ever meet. And I heard that you burn, 11,000 calories in 9 hours?
Well, no, it's 12 hours, 13 hours. But an average day, we monitored my body just to see what's happening in my body and the audience. So I've got an audience of 10 or 15 or 20,000 people, depending upon the event in a stadium. And I'm going 12 hours, sometimes 14 hours a day. So my average burn is 11,300 calories, 4,000 of which I burn before I get on stage. It's just my mindset. I guess chess players do the same thing, I found out. But they've never seen somebody burn so much. I jump 1,000 times in a day on average, cranking the room, around the building. And I weigh 282 pounds. So they explain to me every time you come down, it's 4 times your body weight. So it's 1,000 pounds because I weigh 282 pounds. So 4 times that, 1,000 pounds times 1,000 jumps, 1 million pounds of pressure every day I'm on stage. I run the equivalent of a marathon and a half on most of those days, the long days. So I have to take care of this body. So I've learned a lot of great tools to do that. And I'm passing those on. A new book I'm doing called Life Force. It's really all about regenerative medicine, things that you thought would happen 20 years in the future that are happening right now in the next 2 and 3 years. They're in phase 2, phase 3 trials with the FDA.
Or you're the guy who really is always about pivoting, knowing how to pivot. I mean, from the big life mastery they do in Hawaii, 100 people, and then 9/11 happened, and you're like, we got to pivot. And right away, you and Sage thought, like, how can we pivot? And it was launching Life Mastery, now pivoting again to the virtual Life Mastery that's happening just in a couple weeks.
Yes.
And, I think that that's such a huge thing about just how you're always innovating. But the one thing that I am in awe of you about is how early on you understood about having women on your leadership team.
Yeah, more than half my company. I think about 65% of my company is female.
But why? I mean, it's been since, when I started, there were women, I'm sure a lot of people are wondering why.
I think it just, in the personal development field, very often women are more curious. I think because women have to deal with so many different identities. You got to be a mom, and you got to be a businesswoman, you got to be a lover, and you got to be a wife or a husband, if perhaps if you're gay and you have a gay lesbian relationship. So there are just so many roles for women. Men don't tend to have that same shift or that same tempo. And women are capable of it because, as you know, we can talk all day long about politically correctness, but men and women are biologically wired differently. And women have access to both sides of their brain, which is why, you can say something to a woman and it can trigger her emotionally. You say it to a guy, it doesn't matter. He keeps it in the left-hand hemisphere. A woman connects it all. It's also why a woman has such a great memory. So I don't value women more than men. That would be unfair and untrue. I value all human beings for what they bring to the table. But I think women in our culture, by the level of demand they have and the diversity of demand, are more hungry to learn and grow than some men. And so, I just tend to have a slightly more greater number of females than males that participate. Now, my seminars are pretty much 50-50, but in my company, it's a little bit more female.
Well, I'm very grateful for that, because I think a lot of times you were really a cheerleader for me. I remember when I was like in my groove, and then I got pregnant, and I think we were on about 250 days a year, and the walls were saying, no, don't, she can't travel. She can't do her job. And you are the one that said, give her a chance. Let's give her a chance. Let's see if she can do this. And you let me bring my kids on the road. I think I got another picture to show, because it's a favorite picture of you in Hawaii.
Oh my gosh, look how Lily is. He's a strapping, gorgeous man now. Look at that.
And so, but I think that, just for companies out there and for parents out there, as they have to pivot and innovate for themselves, what would be the advice that you would say?
I think you got to start with you. It's kind of like, when you get on a airplane, if nobody gets on them anymore, but when we used to get on airplanes, the first thing they say to you is, look, if there's a problem, right, and we lose oxygen, this oxygen mask is going to drop from the ceiling. What do they tell you? The first thing you got to do is put it on your child. Right? No. What do they tell you? They say it's counterintuitive. They say, put it on yourself, you selfish bastard, your kid's going to die. But the reason they say that is if you don't take care of you, you can't take care of your kids. And they're absolutely right. It's counterintuitive for all of us who are parents. We want to take care of our kid first. But if you take care of you, you can do it. And I think the thing you got to do to take care of you is take control of the inner world. Because right now the outer world's kind of in shambles, at least on the surface. We're in a winter season and people think this is the end of the world, and it's not the end of the world. When things are going great, people think it's going to go great forever, and they're wrong. And when things are going terrible, things are going to go terrible forever. Everything is cyclical. And so we're going through a cycle. It's going to be a longer winter than we probably want it to be. But winter is always followed by spring, right? New opportunity is going to come. It already is happening. And, after a really horrible night, the day comes. And if you're God, you'd set it up that way. So you got to start with you. And I would say, while you can't control the outside world, you can influence it. But the one thing you can control is you. So you got to start with you. And so I think where all of our ability to take charge of our life, because right now people are being conditioned because you're required to stay home in some places. You can't go to a restaurant. You can't send your kids to school in some places. And so people start feeling like I'm just managing my circumstances instead of remembering you're a creator, that you can create life on your terms, even in this environment. But you got to start by mastering the world in here and in here, or it won't happen. And so I think the way to do that is understand what changes your life is only one thing: decisions. Every change you've ever made has been fathered or mothered by a decision. And so decisions are what really shape us. Everybody has shitty conditions. And listen, COVID has taken everybody to their knees except maybe Amazon and toilet paper makers, right? Everybody else has taken a hit. Restaurant owners, anybody. But the truth of the matter is the greatest story of mankind is the comeback story, right? It's somebody who was taken to their knees and did not get up. They got up, got knocked down. They got up, got knocked, but they kept getting up until they didn't just get back to where they were. They figured a way to be even better than where they were. And that's the opportunity that 2021 is going to offer you in spite of COVID, in spite of political unrest, in spite of racism and all the BS that can distract from what we're capable of spirits, right? And so I think the 3 decisions that I try to educate people about, there's 3 decisions happening right now. And every one of you listening to me, and you can test it and see if I'm full of it or not. But the problem is most of these 3 decisions are being made subconsciously without awareness. So when you do it subconsciously, you just run the same habit over and over again. You get the same result, the same emotion. It's not usually ideal. So the 3 decisions are: 1, what are you going to focus on? Most people don't consciously decide. Let the environment trigger them. They turn on the news and it makes you focus on what seems like the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. This COVID is literally 99.7% of the people are going to live, right? We thought it was 3%, 4%, even 5% death rate in the beginning, and they're still reacting that way. But now it's not. If you have a child, send them to school. All the studies show it. In New York, people pushed and pushed, and they finally came up with the studies and showed it doesn't get transferred through kids in any vehicle. Your kids are not going to die. The only kids that have died is there's such a tiny percentage, and they all had at least 4 comorbidities, which include cancer, heart disease, lung disease. So you got to get yourself out of fear. But whatever you focus on, you're going to feel. Write down, if you got notes, focus equals feeling. So if you don't control your focus and someone else does, you're going to live their life, not yours. So I'll give you 3 patterns of focus because there's hundreds. But I want to show you, you can be the best person in the world, but if you have the wrong habits of focus, it's going to be a rough life, even when there's no COVID. So let's take an example. And I'll ask you, Loren, since your audience isn't with me, but if I ask an audience, I know their reactions. So if I ask most people, what do you tend to focus on more? I know we focus on both. Do you focus more on what you have or more on what's missing? What would your answer be, honey?
For sure what I have.
Yes. And you're unique in that area because when I go, it's one of the reasons you're such a happy person. When I go and I got an audience of 20,000 people, 10,000 people, I ask them, and they're from all walks of life. We usually translate 5 or 6 languages. They're from multiple countries. But the people who come to see me usually achievers. And you've learned the lesson by your life experience, Loren. But most people as achievers, they achieve a lot, but they can't sustain happiness because the majority of them, 80% of them will say they focus more on what's missing. And that's healthy for a moment. This is what's missing. I'm going to fix it. But most achievers make it into a habit. So just think of this. If you're listening right now or watching us, how can you sustain happiness if your brain is constantly looking for what's missing? You can't. Doesn't matter what a good person you are. Doesn't matter how much good works you do. It's never enough. But if you focus instead, remember where focus goes, energy flows. If you focus instead on all the good that you have, and well, I know you do this all the time. That's why you're such a happy person, have a great life. You start to train your nervous system. You wire yourself to find what's right. Everybody can find what's wrong. Any idiot can do that. But finding what's right is what makes your life different than other people. So focusing on what you have, you only build on success. Now let's take another one. And I know this one for you, Loren, but I'll ask you anyway. Ask an audience. I'll say, what do you focus on more? What you can control or what you can't control? Now, in the COVID environment, in my seminar environment, almost everybody goes, they focus on what they can control. That's why they came to see me. They know their answers. They want answers to make their finances better, their body better, their relationship better, their joy and happiness better. So they're looking to take control. But imagine, most people focus on what's missing and what they can't control. And right now in COVID, more people than ever are doing it, which is why in a place like San Francisco, in the last 9 months, 3 times as many people have died of overdoses than have died of COVID, and no one's talking about it. The lockdowns have created all these side effects. You're going to have 200 million people, according to UN, who don't have any food because we shut down tourism in places like Tanzania. 80% of their income comes from tourism. They don't have money for food. So guys like Dr. Fauci, who I'm sure is a good human being, but he looks at the world like this instead of all the impact of it. So you've got to make sure you focus on what you have, not what's missing, and you got to focus on what you can control, because there's plenty you can't control. If you don't, let's just add one more. We all focus on all 3 of these, past, present, future. But where do you spend more of your time if you're listening to me now? The past, the present, or the future? So most achievers focus on the future. Most people who are really frustrated focus on the past because you can't change it. So what you want is present and future. You want to be in the present, enjoy it, and be able to step in the future to prepare for it. But spending time in the past doesn't work. Well, watch this. There's so many people right now. They're trying to remember the good old days, pre all this stuff. They're focused on what they can't control, what's been taken from them. They're focused on what's missing. And so what are they feeling? Anger, sadness, depression, overwhelm. So they're drinking, smoking, eating, self-medicating in ways to try to deal with it. And so are children. So we have to take control of our decision-making. And if all you did, you see there's nothing wrong with you, but if all you do is change these 3 patterns, focus on what you have and stack it, so you build it in your body, focus on what you can control, obviously things you can't, and focus on the present and future, those 3 changes will completely change a person's life. Our decision shape it. But then the second decision, first you decide what you're going to focus on. That determines what you feel. Second, well, what does this mean? Is this the end or the beginning? If you think it's the end of a relationship, you're going to behave really different than if you think it's the beginning of a relationship, right? In the beginning, you'll do anything. In the end, you're like, screw it, right? This person's not good for me. And the story you tell yourself controls your actions, right? So you've got to decide, what does it mean? Is this person dissing you, disrespecting you? Is this person challenging you? Is this person coaching you, or are they loving you? Well, if you think they're disrespecting you, you're going to have a reaction that's going to put you in a different emotion than they're coaching you. Is God punishing us? Is that why this is happening? Or is God challenging us? Or are all these problems a gift from God? Or has it got nothing to do with God? You're just a lazy bastard not doing your part, right? Whatever meaning you give things, it produces an emotion, and emotions filter the third decision. What are you going to do? If you think someone's disrespecting you, you're going to do something very different than if you think they're loving on you, right? If you think God's punishing you, you're going to react very differently than you go, this is a gift from God, this problem. And so making these 3 decisions differently, moment to moment, training yourself, will completely change a person's life. Now, when you've changed your life, now you can do something with your kids. Because otherwise, you can't take somebody where you've not gone. You can't inspire someone you're not inspired. You can't touch somebody if you're not touched. And as parents, so often we're trying to give our kids something we've not given ourselves, and that's why it doesn't work. But if you start with you, then you can know what to do with your children.
That's why, I'm going to go back and just talk about your programs for a second, because that's what I love about Mastery, honestly, because I remember when you used to do certification, and
Yes.
certification was learning skills. And I remember we were in Cancun, and you said, I need to redesign the program. And you designed it with David Destiny, Life and Wealth. And you're like, they can't, I remember Hutch used to say, you shouldn't go clean up the community till you clean up your own backyard. Right.
Exactly.
And you can't give what you don't have. And for me, life for me, and I know for you, your foundation for everything has been your health with regards to in the state. And what do they talk about now that it's the tricycle? I think John Hopkins says that it's what you eat, how you exercise, but also how you think, right? So most people think and think.
Because the thinking is leading to the emotions, and the emotions are what change your biochemistry, right?
And I had some stinking thinking. I remember, and I think sometimes parents might be feeling this way, or everybody might be feeling this way. I have to learn so much, I have to go and And Life Mastery, the new Life Mastery, you were launching it with in Fiji, which is my favorite place in the world. I can't wait to go back to soon, right?
Yes.
And I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much to learn, so many manuals, and so this and so that. And you came up behind me and you said, Loren, put it all down. Put it all down. You will know what to do. He goes, I brought you here because I knew you'd take care of these people. And I think that if we get back to just not having to feel like we have to figure it all out, right? During these times, would you touch on that a little bit? Because I think that's what I see people going to, like, I got to figure it all out now. And if I don't do this.
So I hear people saying the same thing. I got to figure out my life purpose. Well, who said you only had one life purpose? And who says that it'll be the same purpose 5 years or 10 years from now? That's cultural conditioning. And you got to do what's in front of you next. If you do what's in front of you next, you'll solve the problem in front of you. You'll solve a bigger one and a bigger one. Pretty soon there's no problems left for you to solve, so you can help other people solve those problems. But it's really doing what's in front of you with passion and clarity and not thinking you have to know it all. I tell people, when you don't know what to do, that's when you know what to do. And so people know, Loren, to give context, I've taught this health program for years, and we moved it to Fiji, where I have the #1 resort in the country there. We have 125 staff to take care of like 35 or 40 people. It's ridiculous. 525 acres, ocean frontage with your own swimming pool, waterfalls, unbelievable diving. I said, if we're going to have people get healthy, let's put them in that environment for a week where they're euphoric just being there in this gorgeous environment with these beautiful people. But I wanted to be able to leverage it, and Lo took over and became the person who taught that course. In the beginning, there was so much to learn. And I was saying to her, just do what's next. Let's start with just taking care of these people one step at a time. So I think most of us overwhelm ourselves. And I think women do this more than men. Now, there's gross generalization, but women try to do everything. I don't know how women do it. I mean, I love women so much. I have so much respect for my wife or for any woman I meet, because listen, none of us would make it on this planet, male or female. We didn't get here without a woman with unbelievable courage to go through the birthing process that no man will ever fully appreciate what that takes. I don't care who they are, how much empathy you have. So I'm a fan there. But for women, they tend to try to take care of everything at once, and then they get overwhelmed and they get stressed. So I'm a man, so I can't tell a woman how to think. But what I can say is, if you can chunk down and focus on 1 or 2 things at a time, or maybe 4 at a time instead of 12, I think you're going to find you'll be less overwhelmed. And when you start making progress, it becomes self-fulfilling, and you learn to train yourself to focus on 1 or 2 or 3 things, not 12. This idea of multitasking is a beautiful idea, but all the research shows it makes you ineffective. If you're going to go deep, multitasking is worthless. But as a woman, you have what's called deferred awareness, where, you can feel and see what's happening here, there. It's how we survived as a species. You got to be able to go out there and know where the kids were, and know where the berries were, and know where the bad guys are that could hurt you. So, but being able to let go and to do a step at a time is everything. Take the baby steps and you'll get momentum. If you try to learn it all, you'll never begin.
Well, you know what, I'm going to say, just RPM your life, because I mean,
Yes.
Seriously, RPM for me has been an amazing tool to help me just kind of chunk things better and kind of breathe again, I would say. Like, really, what is my outcome and what's my why behind this? And then I felt like I could, okay, I'm in control. The other thing that I've learned from you and through this environment for the past 31 years is really, you've always said that your life, that you've taken the pain so that you can become more.
Yes.
And for me, that, just during some challenging times in my life, I'm like, okay, how am I going to be able to use this more? Who am I going to be able to help? And I think that it always makes me think of Tony. Remember at the One Day Business Seminar, and you would show the alien video, and she's rocking and rolling, right? And then boom, the ball drops, and the ball's going to
smashes the guy, right? When you think you get all handled, that's how life is, right? So true. But right. I think what you just said is really important. It's like, I used, I had one company and I was overwhelmed. I was making my to-do lists, and if you're an active person, there's no way you can do everything on your to-do list. So I realized I was asking the wrong question, because I remember President Clinton called me. It was a true story. When I was 31 years old, and we were at our offices in San Diego, and I was on a different floor, and they paged, and Tony, the president's on the line. Everybody's staring around. I grabbed the phone, and the secretary puts him on. He says, Tony, they're going to impeach me in the morning. What should I do? And my first response was, could you call me sooner? It's tomorrow morning, right? But then I had to figure out what to do. But I said to him, you're asking the wrong question, if I may say so, Mr. President. So what do you mean? I said, you can't answer what to do until you know what you want. What's the outcome? What's the result? What do you want? Are you wanting to stay in office? If you want to stay in office, do nothing. There's no way the Senate's going to impeach you. I said, that's easy for me to say, but it's true. I said, on the other hand, if you want mothers and fathers to tell their children how incredible the president is and have respect for you, then you might have to do something different. And I said, and you're a lawyer, you know what you can and can't say and what you can and cannot do. And I remember him pausing and saying, holy shit, this is so true. This is so right. I'm going to call you back in 20 minutes. And I thought, wow, I just changed history, right? And then 20 minutes later, a secretary called me and said, the president wants you to know he's still dealing with it. He's been interrupted several times by some of the leadership in the Democratic Party. And 2 hours later, called me back and said, he's coming out and he's going to claim he did nothing, which of course, unfortunately wasn't true. And so, but the idea is, if you can think about what you really want and then make a list of why you're going to do it, that gives you the juice. And that's the RPM. RPMs is like, if you know a motor car, the stronger the RPMs, the faster you can go from here to there. Well, the way you get there faster is not more to-dos. It's getting crystal clear what you want. Clarity is power. And crystal clear why you want it, because that's going to give you the emotion to push through the problems. And then you make a map, a massive action plan, but you're not going to do it all. So you map, what are the 20% of these items that are going to get me 80% of the way there? And if you organize that way, you'll be less overwhelmed. And then so I teach that. In fact, you know, we're going to come out with a digital RPM. I think it's in April or May, so that people can utilize it. Kind of guides them through this, because it's a way of thinking that changes your life, and it takes you out of stress and it makes you more effective.
Remember now that that's become like for me, I'm looking for my winning formula, right? When I'm looking for winning formula, I go, okay, what do I do? You know, you talk about that at Life Mastery, you know, going to that state of certainty. Where do you go? And mine is I get sick and tired of being sick and tired. And then I make me and my vision boards and my manifestation boards, and then I'll go and I'll make an RPM. And I'll go, okay, here's what I do. And then I always look at it like, what's my chunking down process? So anybody that's listening, you got to get RPM when it comes out. Well, I like that, you've taught me too, journals. I think my journals are as tall as I actually am from all of these. It's about be respectful of your time. And just a couple things. You always, as well as that people will do anything to remain consistent with their identity, even if it sabotages everything that they want. And in this new world, you know, what would you say to everyone, some top, you know, maybe some tools or strategies to really help them thrive and, you know, reinvent. I mean, I think it's so much fun to reinvent myself. Every day I'm looking like, what else can I do to reinvent myself? And then how do I really want to be seen in the world? Right? I mean, I look at my evolution. I used to be, what did people call me? The ocean of emotion, right?
That's right. You still are, Lo. That's the ocean of good stuff. I think it starts a little bit before that. I think it starts for most people. You've already trained yourself with this kind of psychology for 30 years, but the average person has not had this kind of training. And so what happens for people is, I can remember even for me, when all hell broke loose, you know me well enough, I've never canceled an event in 44 years. That's how long I've been doing this. And I remember when we did my birthday party and we raised all this money for to save these children that are in lockdown from Underground Railroad and who are all locked in sexual slavery. And I was so happy. And then the next week we're supposed to do this 12,000 person event in San Francisco, San Jose area. People are calling me and saying, Tony, are you going to cancel the event? I was like, what do you mean talking to cancel the event? Last year, I got mercury poisoning in Australia. I went to the hospital. I lost a third of my blood. And they said, you're staying here for 3 days. I said, I'm in the middle of a seminar. And they go, you cannot leave. I said, you can't keep me here. So we made a deal and they gave me a rolling seat, a wheelchair. And I did the rest of the seminar in a wheelchair. I mean, I don't quit. So when suddenly it's more than business, I got 74 companies. This business is not a business, it's my mission. I want to help people. And suddenly they tell me I can't do it in San Francisco because they won't do 12,000 people. They won't even do 1,000. They want to do 100. And then it was 10. And then they shut me down in Amsterdam. And then they shut me down in Moscow. And then in London. And then down in Sydney, Australia. And it's like, what the hell? So I went through the same emotions that a lot of, I think, your viewers or listeners have. It's what you go through like in a death experience, a huge loss. You first have shock, like, I couldn't believe it. Are you kidding me? This is insane. We're going to lock down healthy people. We've never done that in the history of the world. And then the next thing you go through is anger or frustration. Like this, it's not even shock anymore. This is wrong. And then you go through, bargaining. Okay, God, help me do this and I'll do that, right? Or bargaining with someone else, bargaining with the government. And then when that doesn't work, people usually go into deep sadness. And I did. I got to be honest with you. It's like this is my mission. People need me most. I'm trapped in a house. I can't go help people, right? And then eventually you get to acceptance if you're going to let go of that grief, when you start to realize, I don't have control of this. It may be right or not right, but I don't have control of it. So you accept it, but I don't believe that's the last stage. I think there should be a sixth stage. They never teach you when you're going through this. Create again.
Right.
Once you accept what is, it's time to recreate. And that's basically what I did. I was like, okay, first I tried moving locations. We went to Vegas. They'll never shut down Vegas. They shut down Vegas. We'll go to Texas. Texas is its own country practically. The governor said, we'll never shut down. They shut down. And so then I was like, okay, we're going to do it in movie theaters. You remember decades ago, I used to do like 50 movie theaters at a time. I thought we'll do 100 movie theaters with a small number of people and we'll get to serve everybody. And they shut down movie theaters. Then it's like, okay, we're going to do it in churches. And they shut down churches. I'm like, what the hell? So I always said I would never do my events in people's homes. Like, honestly, why don't you do that? You reach more people. It'd be easier. I said, it's not the same as when you're in a crowd of 10 or 20,000 people in a stadium and rocking music, be in your little house and your kids are going by and interruptions are happening. No, I'll never do it. Never say never. Because I realized if my mission's going to continue, I have to find a way. But I said, I'm not going to do like a grandpa webinar. I got to do something really like a live event that has the dynamics and the energy and the focus. And so I sat down, came up with this plan. I said, I'm going to do like 50-foot high ceilings, 20-foot high LED screens, retina screens, so I can see every detail of you. And then I'm going to wrap them 180 degrees around me on both sides. And so I'm literally surrounded. I'll swipe and see 3,000 people, another 3,000. And I want it to be interactive. And they can push a button and clap or laugh, and we can interact. So I laid the whole thing out. I hired these 6 companies, and they said, okay, we can do this in 9 months. And I said, no, you have 9 weeks. And they all said it's impossible, and we did it. And now I've been doing event after event, and the beautiful part is I still prefer in-person live, but it's live with people from 120 countries. We had almost 30,000 people in one of these events, and from all these countries, and like we started at 10 a.m. our time. That was midnight in Sydney, Australia, and we went 14 hours each day. Right? Most people won't sit for a 3-hour movie, but it was so compelling. So the Aussies were going from midnight to 4 p.m. the next day. So we figured a way. And now I'm seeing people like, Lauren, moms that would never fly to the other part of the country right now because they have young children. And people even come to events. They fly to another country or they fly to another state and they go for 4 or 5 days. And they're out of their mind. They come home and try to explain to their family why they're so wired and happy. And they're like, looking like they're crazy. Now it's in their home with their dogs and their cats and their children and participating. So it's extraordinary. So it's all about first, you got to go through those emotions and let go of the past. Humpty Dumpty is not going to be put together the same way. It's not going to be like this forever, but it's not going to be like it was either. Some people are going to be mentally wearing a mask, if not physically, for the rest of their lives because they bought into the story. And when I say story, they told us not to wear masks in the beginning. Why? It's 4 microns. The best mask is 4-micron filtration. The virus is less than 1 micron. It's a screen door. It doesn't do anything. And people can thrash me about it. This is not coming from me. This is from the top doctors in the world. But if you put it on social media, they'll knock you off social media. But if you educate yourself, you can start to say, I don't need fear to hold me. And it's now time for me to create new. And what you got to do is test some things, try some new things, and you'll come across something that's even better. The beauty of COVID is whatever you make it to be. More time with your family, a chance for you to retool and develop some new skills, a chance for you to build a new business if the other one was shut down. And what I find is we get what we look for. So it's like my core belief is life is always happening for us, not to us. And that's easy to say, harder to live. When something isn't working though, I got to remember what's wrong is always available. I got to find what's right and I got to build on that. And when you do, then whatever life gives you, you just get stronger and your life is more meaningful.
Well, I always think of you and I always think of when you do, well, I think I heard you say, I say, we do, no discussion, right? Yeah. You came up with the wheel. It's like, when do we need it? I remember it was in Phoenix and you're like, I need it in 4 hours. I need to find a Harley and I need to find a this. But I love that because that makes you more. Like for me, I'm like, I look at all of these challenges and I'm like, man, I got freaking so resourceful here in this, or when you wanted to go bungee jumping and then finding a place to get you whatever size shoes you wear, right?
Well, you've been phenomenal along that way. And I just think what you just said is really important. I want to echo. A lot of the people out watching are probably young men and women who are still building something. Some of them already built something that looks like it was taken from them. And I think the most important thing is to realize when you say, I have no resources, because when people fail, they'll go, I didn't have the money, I didn't have the time, I didn't have the education, I didn't know the right people, I didn't have the right technology. But all that's a lie, because the most successful people didn't have any of those things either. Had the one thing, they were resourceful, which you are, Lo. Resourceful meaning the ultimate resource is human emotion. So if you don't have it, but you're creative enough, you can get it. If you're determined enough, you can find it. If you care for people enough, you'll get them to care for you and help you to make it happen, whatever it is. So everyone has that resourcefulness available, but it's like a muscle. You know, you don't use it, it gets weaker. You don't actually lose it. It just gets weak. But the minute you start using your demanding on yourself to be resourceful, you get stronger. And every business, you know, many of your people out there have building their own economy, so to speak. They got their own small business or large business. You got to run two businesses always. Even if there wasn't COVID, you got to run the business you're in and make it work. Some people are always thinking about the future because it's more fun and they don't manage the business and the cash flow here and they get in trouble. But you also have to manage the business you're going to become. And if you don't have a vision of where the world's going and how it's changing, and if you're not anticipating and you only work on the business you're in, somebody's going to, you know, outdo you and you're going to be out of business. So business is a great metaphor for life. In business, you are rewarded in direct proportion to the amount of value you can over-deliver to other people. Not the value you want to give, the value they want to receive. And if you do that, even if you're not a business person, if you think of it as any relationship, my goal is do more for that person than anybody else does because it gives me joy, not because I'm manipulating or trying to get something. If you keep giving like that, there are people that will take advantage, of course. But the majority of life comes your way. It's fundamentally, you know, at the most basic level, it's good karma. And you've been practicing that for years, Lo.
Oh, thank you. And I always think about the MPT, right? How do you make more money? Add more value. For you now, I mean, you've accomplished so much. You've helped millions and millions of people. And not only have you done that, you've inspired others to do the same, which I think, you know, leaders create more leaders. And you've helped, I think that just, I mean, I can just say from my family to see what's happened with my boys. I remember they were listening to the Money Masters, and next thing you knew, they were talking about, what was it? Marshmallow gun?
Marshmallow gun, yeah.
But gun, right?
Very good.
Got them to really think differently. And I think now in this new world, in this, you know, it's an opportunity for us to embrace this versus fight it. And I'm more excited now actually than ever before. But what's your mission now? What is it now? I mean,
well, I have so many, you know, you got to always create new goals because it's not about getting the goals anyway. It's about who you have to become to create those goals as a reality. And so, you know, I think in your early, you know, when you're in your teens and 20s, and maybe even your early 30s, for some people, life is about you. And then at some point, it's somebody you love, you know, and then it's your family. And then hopefully it becomes your business or your community. And for some people, it becomes humanity, not virtue signaling bullshit. You know what's really driving you. And I just think that if you can find something you care about more than yourself and that affects more people than yourself, you get guidance because life supports whatever supports more of life. So when you're trying to support more of life, I really believe you get different kinds of insights. So for me, it's like, you know, I'm privileged enough to have an airplane that I don't fly now, you know, because no place to go. Like, you know, 2019, I went to 118 cities in 16 countries. Last year, I went to 3 countries in January and February, and that was it, right? But my point is, it's like, okay, I want to be conscious about that. What's the impact on the environment? How many trees do I need to replace? And I found it was 3,000 trees. So I said, I'm going to plant 100 million trees. So that was 3 years ago. I'm already at 71 million trees. So I'm going to get to 100 million. You know, I grew up with nothing. I grew up without food. So I want to feed people. So we're going to feed 1 billion people. So we're already at 700 million in 6.5 years, right? Six years and a couple months. I see chance to make a difference for kids that are locked into slavery. So it's like, I'm going to use whatever resource I have. I'm going to free 50,000 children. We're on track for 25,000 already. So it's like a small city of children who've been taken. Imagine if your child was taken from you and sold into slavery. Happens every day. It's one of the largest businesses in the world right now. More people are in slavery today than any time in history. Smaller percentage, but more people, right? Because it's a larger population. So those are the things that excite me besides, you know, being with my children. And, you know, I have a 5th grandchild now, so I have 5 grandchildren, and my wife who I adore, and being an athlete and serving people. So it's like, you can't get tired or exhausted when you're so fulfilled in so many different areas. And I'm doing things that are great. I always say to people, if you're bored, you're not bored. You have infinite goals. You have goals that don't move you. So find something bigger. And there was a stage about, I don't know, maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago, probably when I was hitting, around your age, 53, 54, 55. And I've started going, holy shit, like I've gone beyond all my goals. I used to think of my life in 10-year chunks, my 20s, my 30s, 40s, 50s. And I got to my 60s and I'm like, shit, I got to figure out what to do. And so some of these goals about how to affect people all over the planet, those ones really excite me. And they're not, pipe dreams. I'm doing them very pragmatic and measurable way.
I would say that you live what I would call Goya. But Goya. So vision, we always talk about vision, right? And we talk about without vision, people perish. But you have to do Goya. You got to get off your ass and go do something.
That's what Goya stands for. I like that.
And that's why I'm really excited about the New World, New You challenge as well, because you give people practical things that they can go integrate right away into the right.
What's been fun is last year I did this. I just said, people are stuck at home. I got to do something to help people. And I hadn't built my stadium or any of that stuff yet. So I was like, okay, well, I'll call Eric, who's the founder of Zoom. He's a good guy. And say, I need more than 1,000. That's the most people you can put on it. And then we got into 30,000, but we ended up having 400,000, 380,000 people join us. So we had to use Facebook. But we then put people in Facebook groups afterwards. And just like this one, the one that's coming up in a few days, it's coming up, what's the date? January 21st through the 25th. It's free. No charge, no games. Just come. I say an hour and a half a day. Be prepared. It's usually 2 hours because I want to really give to you. But we're going to cover your body, your emotions, your relationship, your finance, your career, your business in 5 days. Total immersion. And each day I'm going to give you a task to do. That's how you pay for it. It's not money. You push yourself to do something uncomfortable so you grow and you grow and you grow. But then we have people in the Facebook group and they have friends from, 100 different countries that are all committed. And it's been fun seeing the impact of that. And so we're doing it. Everybody said, would you please do another one? I said, I'll do one in 2021. And everybody said, please do it in January. Everybody's stuck. So I said, it makes sense. And it's because we call it New Year, New You, because it's a new world, rather, New World, New You, because it is a new world. And we got to have a new you to be successful, to be not just survive, but thrive and expand. And so we're going to do that starting January 21st, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, but we have people from 100 countries, some people in the middle of the night. And if you just go to the link, make2021myyear.com, make2021myyear.com, costs nothing. Just get yourself registered. And if you have family or friends you want to join you, invite them to come as well.
I'm going to give away, just so you know, because I love the VIP program. So I'm going to give away 10 VIP programs because that'll be.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. So, well, the VIP program is if some people want more personal attention, I think it's like $197 or something like that. What you do is you get on Zoom rather than Facebook. You get to do these kinds of direct questions and answers with me personally and with Sage. And I'm bringing some really cool people along the way that are kind of surprises. But I'll give you one, like Sarah Blakely, who created Spanx, is going to join us, right? She started with nothing, became the youngest self-made billionaire, sharing her story. But you'll have a chance to interact with us. Plus, we donate 100 meals to Feeding America because they need it for every person that does it. And then we also send you the whole 5 days on video that's just for you because we take it offline after that happens. So you're going to send 10 people to that? That's awesome.
10 people. So that's really exciting. So we'll put it once again where people can respond to the event. I want to know what they're doing because we want to make sure that you really implement. So that's my focus. Well, I adore you. I love how you've created I think it's like Ecubed, right? Entertain, educate, and what are you saying? Educate, entertain,
and empower.
Empower,
yeah, because you got today people, we're not an information society. There's too much information. People are drowning in information. They're starving for wisdom. So I realized early on that I wasn't gonna be able to teach people unless I can entertain the hell out of them, make them laugh, make them cry, no matter who they are. And people won't sit for that 3-hour movie, but they'll come for 12 hours a day with me, get dragged there and think they don't want to do it and end up loving it. So we entertain them first, then we educate them with the best tools that can actually change your life. And then while you're in the environment, we get you to do something so you know it works and you get momentum so it shows up in your real life. We call that Ecubing, and that's been kind of my marker for how to make learning so much fun, but also so compelling that you actually do it.
I'm beyond grateful. The most important thing I'd say to you is I never forget where I come from.
Yeah,
and
me too, though. Me too.
Jim Rohn, how he was your mentor, and I just want you to know that you're that person for me, and I'm beyond grateful for just who I'm becoming and who I have become, and just what you've done always for my family, my friends, and people that you don't even realize who you've impacted just by all that I've learned and implemented in my life. So I'm excited for people to be a part of the program with you, and I'm excited for what's to come.
Me too. And what's next is always better, honey. And what you've already done with your life is beautiful. And I sincerely compliment you. You know, we've known each other almost 3 decades, it sounds like here. So that's a pretty amazing ring of time. And you've always been a person that's been a lover, a giver, a sharer. You've always been committed to growth for yourself and your family. And you've always been unbelievably generous. So I think, I'm sure your viewers or listeners already know who you are because they've had experiences with you. But I just want to say, as someone who's known you for multiple decades, you're the real thing. And I love you dearly. So have a beautiful time. Thanks for having me on. And God bless to everybody who watched.
How awesome was today? Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and invite your friends to join as well. I'm here for you with fabulous content, great guests, and lots of giveaways. To learn more of how I have taken what I've learned, applied it to my life, helped others find their true voice, make sure you text TRUE, TRUE, to 26786. which will take you to Tony's New World, New You Challenge and your chance to win a VIP ticket to the challenge, as well as my top tune-ups and a complimentary 15-minute discovery call. And remember, keep in touch with me on Instagram at I am Loren Lahav, Facebook, Loren Lahav Official, Clubhouse, Loren Lahav. Make sure you text TRUE, TRUE, to 26786. Text TRUE, TRUE, to 26786. And remember to always stay true to the amazing person you are.